he points to John and goes, what about him? And you're like, that's what I mean. That's being grounded. That you are very secure in yourself. I would say a lot of my 20s was trying to get past that of like, I don't have to be somebody else to feel successful, to feel content, to feel fulfilled. Like I'm on my own journey.
I was just about to say that you summed up my 20s.
Hey guys, Cartwright here. Thanks for listening, watching wherever you are. Make sure you follow, subscribe wherever you listen or watch. We're so grateful that you've watched our podcast. But also, we want to answer your questions, so please send in your questions. Hit that link in the bio. Send us a question. We love answering the questions that you have. Anyway, thanks for being here.
Man, this is really, really fun. Thanks. I think I'm going to say this probably every episode, but thanks for letting me do this with you, man. It's cool to get, again, to reuse my old joke, free counseling sessions.
Well,
you just haven't figured it out yet.
It also helps me not feel like a crazy person just talking into a camera and a mic, which is, I feel like Ricky Bobby. Car drive real good. I don't do it with my hands.
Yeah, at least this way I can ask you the obvious questions and just let you go from there, you know? Speaking of that, so we are in, we're going through the Forge curriculum that you've built. So FORGE. Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. It's just something about your phone right now. It's just click that screen real quick, see what it does.
I'm good here.
You see, it's just a little slow. I don't know if that's
laggy.
Yeah, I don't understand why it's doing that. That's what's weird. But
I'm on.
I mean, it could be fine. I mean, that's what's great. I did put this camera back up here, so I could get you in. Oh, your Wi-Fi. Yeah, there we go.
Better.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah. Itself. I don't get it, but technology.
It'll be fine.
It'll be fine.
Calm down. You know the Will Ferrell thing where he says, keep your composure. And he throws the chair. What movie is that?
What is an SNL skit?
No. It's the basketball movie.
Yeah.
He's Moon. Jackie Moon.
Jackie Moon. Yeah.
I don't know the name of the movie though.
That was not one of my favorites of his.
It wasn't. But
it had some funny.
But
parts.
That one scene where he said, "Everybody, keep your composure." And he throws the chair and tells everybody to calm down. That's fantastic. It's got a really good gift for that too, or GIF.
Yeah.
One of those two.
Me.
All right, back to the subject. So we are in
serious, though.
Time to get serious. We're in the Forge curriculum, the thing that Cartwright has spent so much time in building, where we basically go through the spelling of Forge so that men in their 20s and 30s can kind of get an idea of where they are in these areas so that they can actively work on development and growth within those areas. Kind of safe to say, right? Is that a good right? Yeah. And so it's FORGE. The first week was Faithful Son. I still think that one is my favorite.
Well, it's just, kind of why I started it.
Yeah, it's kind of the foundation of it all, right? Mm-hmm. How you view how Christ views you shapes a lot of how you. The second week was Offensive Servant. Last week was Reflective Leader, another really, really good one that I got a ton out of. And just listening to us talk about it back, and then this week is Grounded Person. So, the biblical context that you have for this, and then I'm going to kind of let you run and speak on it, is a man who's rooted in Christ remains stable no matter what storms come. And so in Colossians 2, 6 through 7, you say, you don't say, Paul says.
I wish.
You didn't say this. Colossians 2, 6 through 7, continue to live your lives in him, rooted and built up in him. Speak about a grounded person real quick, Hoff.
Yeah, there's something. I mean, I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the episode. I want to say it was 152. If you want to go back and reference, the great men inspire us, but the good man holds up a mirror. There's something about just the groundedness of. We've been around those types of people. Just they're very present. They're extremely integrous. Like they're very consistent in who they are, and that's the people you can really depend on. Solid footing. And I think there's something, too, of just from a biblical standpoint that's really interesting. And I use the reference, I don't know if, Bo, you're going to get to this, but John 21:15-25. This is when Jesus says 3 times, "Do you love me?" to Peter.
And this is after he's been resurrected.
That is a whole Bible study, just that little back and forth that Jesus and Peter had, Greek words of love and all that. But there's something too. I think that interaction that here Peter gets this mantle, this call from Jesus that's referenced in this passage, and how he's going to glorify God in his death. And you're just like any young guy that feels that from a mentor, let alone Jesus, right? That powerful. And Peter has this weird reaction, and this is the temptation for all men. And I think this is one of the core of why I put this verse up is. Then Peter he points to John and goes, what about him? You're like, a little bit, it's like, Peter, just stop. Jesus puts this mantle in this call. It talks about glorifying God in his death. And he's comparing himself to John. Well, what's John's going to be like? And you're like, that's what I mean. That's anti being grounded, that you are very secure in yourself. Like I talk about, humility a lot, like truly confident people, not arrogant people, are very humble because they are completely content with who they are and who they're not. And like that groundedness and that lack of comparison that you are very, it's been on it. I would say a lot of my 20s was trying to get past that of like, I don't have to be somebody else to feel successful, to feel content, to feel fulfilled. Like I'm on my own journey.
Well, I was just about to say that you summed up my 20s.
Yeah, exactly.
Really, I mean, it's like, how does everybody else in this room view me?
Right.
And I got to make sure it's what I want it to be viewed as, you know?
And it's usually based off through a lens for some other person that you got along the way that's not rooted in Christ.
Yeah.
That's not rooted in, that's why Colossians, being built up in him, lives, in him. Like there's something rooted and built up. Like it's like, because we get rooted and built up in how I'm perceived, who I know, how much money I make, how successful I look. It's just, there's just, hundreds of different things that we can kind of find our rest in or our rootedness in. And it's like, being a grounded person is what really will sustain our life, sustain our relationships, the things that actually matter and are eternal. Right. So that's kind of why I bring this verse up, because there's something too in the midst of the call to greatness that Peter has. He's still like living. I mean, that's what I think is so powerful. And we talk about the Bible and talking to about 20-year-olds. It's like these guys were like in their early 20s trying to figure this all out. It's just in the midst of all that goes, well, what about John? And I just like, oh my God. Jesus does what any good mentor say, just worry about yourself. Like, dude, you got something great in front of you. Just worry about that. Enjoy that. Live in that. So anyway.
Yeah. No, yeah. I mean, that's such an interesting thing. Yeah. Like how, I mean, it's interesting, but I can totally relate to it.
Oh, 100%.
You can immediately see past, even so you could view that as like a good thing that's happened to you. So Peter could say, hey, this is a good thing that's happened to me with, the Messiah saying, hey, I'm calling you to basically so I can build my church on you, and then for a guy in their 20s, it could be, something obviously much smaller, but, some sort of success. And anytime I experience success, I can totally relate to what Peter did, because I immediately think, okay, cool. That's great. Now now what about this too?
Right.
You know, I mean, I'm already moving on, and I'm not even thinking about the thing that just happened anymore, in a way.
Right.
That's a bit of a ramble, but it is kind of
No.
like
Yeah.
really interesting how, especially in our 20s, I think once you get into your mid 30s, you kind of have that more understanding of yourself in a way, just through experience,
Yes.
you know.
Yeah.
But when you're in your 20s, man, I mean, you're just like, okay, great, this good thing happened. Now what's, you know, I mean, and then how will this help my image to other people, or how other people view me, stuff like that. So,
so you make a great point. When we're constantly exposed to different things, experiences, so much of the 20s is everything is really new. People, experiences, different circumstances. I mean,
right.
the broad. So therefore, that's why it's like, if I can come back to like the point of this podcast, how do I then help you reflect on that?
Mm-hmm.
Of like, all right, what was my true intent amidst all of this? You know, I had this conversation with a group of 20, guys, probably around 25 yesterday about this. It was like, man, in the midst of working hard, success, trying to build something, build a career, going after, being a man of excellence, like, how do I then evaluate my motives along the way? I think that's what it means, like learning how to be a grounded person. It's going, okay, did I do this solely for me and my benefit? Did I do this for someone else? Did I do this for the praise? Did I do this for the accolades? Or did I purely do it because this is who I am? Kind of what we talked about last week. Or was that 2 weeks ago? Just the identity-based automaticity or something.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
the
it's
Navy
like,
SEAL thing.
yeah, the Navy SEAL thing. You know, so am I a guy who, do I work hard solely to get the result, or do I work hard because I'm a guy who works hard?
Yeah.
That's who I am.
Yeah.
And so that kind of like learning, and I think this is kind of this pillar, I should say, is kind of based off of like, all right, helping really young guys in their 20s figure out what are my core values, not just in the virtuous sense, but like what is it, core values for me. And I think that's an interesting just thought process and conversation, to think about. So,
well, it's because in a way, when you name your core values, I don't know. You tell me if this is right. Mm-hmm. Again, counseling session. For real. You're starting to figure it out. But I guess when you name your core values, is that almost an exercise? To me, it's almost like when I name my core values, these are the things that I can control in a way.
Yeah.
Like if I can operate within these, I'm not going to be able to control all the different things that happen, or the people that I work with, or what they do, or, what this world throws at me. But these core values are how I operate on a day-to-day basis. And then, I don't know, this feels a little loose, but like, and then the chips kind of fall where they fall.
You're not living and dying off outcomes. You're being driven by an internal driver. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. And in turn, you will have not necessarily the outcome. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And you're starting to see where you have value and understanding. You're not living off of somebody else's value systems. Like, oh, I have value to the world because, of an outcome of, I make more money. I make money, or I can bring in sales, or I can, right? You're like, oh, my value to the world is there's a blend between some level of integrity and virtue and my personality. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I'll speak for example. I have found through failure, mistakes, frustration, that I have a natural bent. I need to be in a work environment that's a little more autonomous. Like that's a little bit of core value of me, that I just have to be. If I'm in a highly structured environment, then that does not bring out the best Cartwright. It brings out a very, why
do you think that is?
Well, I think God just designed me for, and I think that's what I mean by mixing personality and virtue. It's like autonomy necessarily isn't a super virtuous. It's not like I wouldn't call it a virtue, but it's part of my personality.
Okay.
And so that's why your core values aren't necessarily all have to be these courage, like people put on the wall, and you're like, you don't really do that.
Yeah.
But your core values don't all have to be that. But I'm saying like, oh, these are the things that make me the best me, where I add the most value to people. If you put me in a high structure environment, I would not add a lot of value, because I would mostly be frustrated. I would feel like if I was tied to a desk all day, that kind of. But I think God did wire some people. They can, like, they have a high motor to sit and grind stuff out, be at a computer all day.
Yeah.
They need to be in a high structure environment.
Yep.
And understanding part of being in your 20s is figuring that out.
Yeah, and those people hate being in the more flexible environment too.
Yeah, you're like, oh man.
Yeah, I don't like it. Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah,
I wonder why. Well, I guess that's a really good point you made.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think if you ask guys in their 20s right now, give me your 4 core values, they would all probably circle around about the same 8 different ones.
Yeah.
Integrity, courage, honesty, stuff like that. One thing that you've taught me is what you've taught me about myself is one of my core values is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a little bit in how, like, I mean, my parents are extremely hard workers. And so I think that, kind of living in that, growing up, and I'm so thankful for that. But it's funny because you and I have talked about, like, if somebody says something at work that, like, really, makes me, like, get angry, I guess. I don't know. And, like, and then it'll kind of stay within me for a while. And then I'll try to think, like, well, why did that make me so angry? And you pointed out a couple of years ago that because one of your core values is hard work.
Mm-hmm.
And part of the implication in whatever happened at work was that you're not working hard.
Yeah.
And so I never thought in my mind, so to you, it's the autonomy thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I never thought that, like, stuff like that could be a core value. Does that make sense? Like hard work is, like, I guess that kind of is like a core value, but, like, it's also the things that, like, are within your personality that when people touch those tender spots, it brings out such a big reaction. So I kind of had to reverse engineer mine and figure out, oh, that's a core value because it made me so mad when somebody touched on it. Does that make sense?
Oh, 100%, Bo. Yeah, that's where you can really find out. It's like, why does this tick me off so much?
That's right.
That's where you go, okay, because I have a core value for this.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
so you're not just, like, drumming up these, like, great keywords that, like, it's almost, in a way, you can find your core values by figuring out, man, what offends me the most?
Yeah.
When somebody says something, or, like, is it, like,
a
respect thing, or I don't know.
Right. Well, I think this is, I mean, let's go back to the verse here. Like, I think Jesus knew Peter's core value, Peter's personality is, like, he's probably a type of everything we've read. He's a type A, highly driven, action-oriented guy. I mean, they always say Peter's gospel is Mark, right? Because Mark traveled with Peter, and everything you read, it's like Mark starts from the very beginning of the ministry. He doesn't get in the birth stuff. He doesn't get too much into the, like, all that. It's like immediately, let's start ministry, and it's action. It's less teaching, and it's more the action stuff. He does have teaching in there, obviously, but it's like he's getting all what Jesus does. And it's like, oh, that's Peter. That's Peter's personality. That's his, and Jesus knew that. And so when he puts the mantle of the rock of my church, he's like, okay, I know Peter. One, like, I trust his heart now more. But 2, I know his personality. He'll be a driver of this. Or John, it's like, oh, John, I know John's personality. I know how I wired him. I know how, Jesus knew his makeup. It's like John will be the one that I probably allowed to live the longest. And he'll write a different gospel that'll actually speak to a different, more theology than some of my ministry, right? So it's like, it's interesting that Jesus understood these personalities, people, and I think he does for the same thing for us, of, like, he helps us try to, in our relationship with him, we're figuring out, like, okay, who am I? What are my new drivers, values? And I think probably a good trigger of markers, to your point, Bo, why am I so ticked off about this?
You'll probably hear other people ask you, why are you so ticked off about it? This does not seem like a big deal.
Yeah.
And you'll be like, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
I hit on something.
I mean, when so there's another thing that happens in your 20s when you start getting that self-confidence. You start trusting those those emotions. You don't live and die off them, but you trust them and going, okay, there's something here that's really, and I would say I had a similar emotion when I start feeling that, and could be the middle child in me. It could be the autonomous thing in me. But like, yeah, when someone wants to control my actions and is looking over my shoulder, I have a visceral response to it of like, get away from me.
Right.
Go away.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a grown man.
Yeah.
So that's where you're like, okay, do I need to act out of that emotion? No. But do I need to listen to it in a sense? That's why I'm like, as Christians, we kind of, there's schools of thought of like, oh, completely reject your emotions. Like, no. Oh, or like, oh, completely live by them. Like, no, we've talked about here. There's always a third option here. Yeah. And I think one is like, all right, listen to them as you're becoming a grounded person, learning your core values, kind of learning to evaluate and discern, why did this bother me so much? And that was a great exercise.
Well, I think it's kind of it's an interesting way that's within this course. It's don't, the value in it. Let me get my thoughts together. The value in taking this course is not necessarily so that you come in and already have your core values named. It's, hey, let's flesh this out. Yeah. And massage this out to figure out what really are your core values, just so that you're not saying the cookie cutter ones that are the sound good ones, but maybe not be true for you. Yeah. So if you want to figure out, okay, what really is true for me, come take this course and talk to you about it. I kind of think about, like people are getting blood work done nowadays. I'm in the medical field, and I'm not a doctor. That sounded like I was a doctor, didn't it? I'm not
Dr. Morgan?
No. But it's like when people, they're getting blood work done to figure out, like, what are you low on? What kind of hormones do you need? Are you low on testosterone? Whatever, stuff like that, so that people can really, pinpoint what peptides they need or whatever. Anyway, it's a big deal right now. Tons of people are doing it.
Peptides, yeah.
But you don't go in saying, well, I'm low on this, doc, so I need this. Right. No, you come in and you get your blood work done. And it's kind of how I view this course. It's like, man, come in and, really let's diagnose what it is in you, so that you know your core values, and then you know how you operate within those core values to better understand yourself. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like it, Bo. Yeah.
Yeah. We also offer blood work here. That's a good example, right? I feel like Michael, my boss, God, I talk about Michael every week. He doesn't believe me, by the way. I'll tell him, I'll go back to work and be like, hey, I talked about you today. And he'll be like, no, you didn't. And I'm like, I did.
I told him.
He's the king of analogies, so he's rubbed off on me a little bit. All right, kind of back to, I led you down a bit of a rabbit hole there.
It's a good hole.
But I want to bring us back by asking the core question on the grounded person. And so the core question that you have right here is, am I staying steady and rooted right now? Mm-hmm. Or am I being tossed by circumstances, emotions, or opinions?
Yeah.
So I think you've kind of touched on this, but what would you expect some of the answers to be, honest answers to be, of some of the guys that you are talking to on a weekly basis?
Yeah. Well, one is just, you're not going to bat 1,000% on that. That's probably the one. Let me just kind of give you permission. But two, it's like, okay, what are the stronger opinions? What are the stronger emotions that you feel like are swaying you? And how are you evaluating yourself in those kind of like, okay, what, and, going back to the core value thing, but it's like, what's the thing that keeps, that core value thing, but I'm like almost the opposite of, similar but opposite of a core values. Like, what are the things that I continue to stumble in, or what are the core temptations I have in my life that, like, am I living and dying on how my boss reacts to me? Am I living and dying off of, a certain, anxiety, fear, depression, frustration, I'm like, am I allowing those to almost dictate so many of my actions and decisions?
Yeah.
So learning to evaluate those things, that's kind of the question I'm trying to get to. And I've talked about it here probably a lot. And so if for the new people out there, it's like, yeah, I lived so much of my 20s living my eyes through other people. Yeah. And so when you constantly have that, you're up and down, you live and die off of that. And it's like learning to go, okay, why do I feel the desire to impress this person? It's like, oh, I want to be known in a good light. It's like, well, to be known in a good light is actually to be a more grounded person, is to be more consistent in who I am. And so I literally went on a journey of just like, hey, here's me, take it or leave it kind of thought. And if somebody acted poorly, I had to go deal with that emotions, but I didn't act out of those emotions. Like, ooh, that didn't feel good, but it's okay.
Yeah.
This person's not God. This person's not Jesus.
Yeah.
So I'm not living and dying off how their opinion of me and how they think of me. And it's like going through that journey is, I think, a way to be more grounded. You become more reflective. You become more of a person that people can depend on. Be a person that's more consistent, showing up in relationships because you're not living and dying on what they say. Because I think really is ultimately, like, I think we'll be accounted for of just the people closest to us. So many of us live in the marketing, PR way of people around the network of people think of us versus who I think we'll be more accounted for who's closest to us, like our wife and our kids. And you, as you know, Bo, it's like, especially with kids, you have to you have to so much detach your ego from being a husband and a father. It's like people can react and respond in certain ways, but you have to be, and some days, you don't always win that battle, but there's like learning to be that consistent. My son, he's 2 years old. There's moments where when I say no, I am the worst person in the world. I can't react out of him being angry or throwing a tantrum. I have to be consistent, right? Because then for the rest of his life, he's got to know that there's this solid footing here. I am the adult in the room. He doesn't have to learn how to manage his emotions as well as mine. That thought experiment, that place you have to kind of get to and learning how to do that. Anyway, does that make sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, in turn, I guess, am I staying steady and rooted? I guess the only way you can determine that is if you learn how to kind of evaluate yourself.
Yeah.
In real time in a way, right?
Yeah. And it's like, I think this is why Jesus said it's to your advantage I go, because I'm sending my Holy Spirit. Like we have the advocate on our side to help us do that. We're not doing this on our own.
Yeah.
As well as doing it with other brothers, whether it's in a group setting or in a one-on-one setting. Like we have brothers to bounce ideas off, thoughts on us, help us get perspective, help us really discern what's going on. But also we have the Holy Spirit guiding us. And that's why when Paul says pray continually, he's meaning converse with the Holy Spirit continues. Like, all right, God, I don't understand why my son, why is his reaction making me so angry? And it's like, that kind of stuff. So anyway.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's kind of a muscle you have to work too. It's the daily conversation with God. Mm-hmm. There's no relic. There's no thing you have to perform. It's the daily conversation and before you go into a meeting or like, I don't know. I'm not speaking really to the grounded person thing, but I think that's one thing I've learned in my 30s is how key that is, and just having that ongoing conversation. It's almost like in my mind, it's like, when you spend some time praying in the morning or do whatever you do, it's not like you say amen and then you talk to him again the next morning. It's kind of like, no, this is a co-working, co-laboring relationship here. Which we've talked about a lot before.
Which is part of the grounded part because it's making your faith real. You're actually believing that he's near, that he's close, versus some idea that I'm just kind of, or some ritual that I'm kind of walking, just kind of going through the motions. Like when you pray continue throughout the day, you're believing that, when Jesus died on the cross, he gave me access, full access. Mm-hmm. That through no matter where I am, I could be in the darkest corner of the world, I still have access.
Yeah.
It's like, that's being a grounded person.
Yeah.
Because you're becoming authentic in your faith. You're like, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. That's really good. Some of the key focus and issues that you have listed are, I'll kind of breeze through the first one because I think you've already hit it, but building emotional, spiritual, and practical stability.
Yeah.
That's the first one. But then the second one that I want to talk about is maintaining consistent habits under pressure. And the first thing that kind of comes in my mind before you get into it is our pastor, he always says you operate under principle, not pressure. So in a way, you've already, when you reach these pressured situations, you've already decided what your response will be almost beforehand. And so you're operating under principle, not pressure. I don't react. Almost like a lot of what we talked about last week with the reflective leader. You're not going to react in a situation. You're going to, move forward in insight and wisdom. Anyway, so what's that mean to you? Maintaining consistent habits under pressure.
Yeah, I think this is I mean, it's like habits. Yeah. I mean, habits is the interesting word of like, I'm trying to think of pressure situations, thinking, habits. I think habits is, I'm kind of like, I'm feeling a little tension a little bit with the word habit. Cause I'm really wanting maybe, if I really would edit it, would I continue to use the word habit? But I'm like, are you showing up consistently, especially when it's hard? Because I think, and this is going back to the leadership thing of like, I think as a leader, you create structure for others, help others create structure and consistency. But at the end of the day, like the best leaders are the ones who thrive in a level of chaos, because chaos is going to happen. It's just going to happen in any business, organization, family, community, church. There's just going to be fits, hit the shan moments, right? And
we'll define. So you struggle with the word habits. I think I kind of understand what you're saying, but define habit. Like, what does habit mean?
Yeah. Well, habits are I would say things you do regularly. It's things that you do consistently. Like showing up on time is a good habit. Showing up, I'd probably say the number one habit that probably the older you get, the more you realize that most people don't have it is just showing up and showing up regularly. The best friend you have is the guy who just continues to show up and be there. The best. I mean, I always say that's the best thing about my dad. It's like the midst of all life that was happening and frustrations and dealing with his own junk, right? He just kept showing up.
Yep.
And he was at my games. Yep. He was in my life. He was there at bedtime. He was there in the morning. Like, it's like, and then you meet people that wasn't a thing.
Yep.
Even the ones that had their dad their whole life. And even there's the ones that are, that are divorced or left or whatever. Like, just, he was there.
Yeah.
It's like, man, that's a habit. That's, that. So maybe, maybe I'm thinking in the context of the word of, what's the famous book? Well, there's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, which is a great book.
Atomic Habits.
Atomic Habits. That's the one. Which is that's a great book. And I'm trying to remember the author. Heard an interview with him recently. Very, very good. I don't know. Maybe because my autonomy part of me is like habits. I don't like habits.
You don't want to be stuck.
Yeah.
Habits.
But I guess it goes back to my point of like, what are you doing consistently? No matter what the pressures, no matter what you're dealing with, that you're showing up.
Oh, absolutely.
And beyond just showing up, there's other things beyond just showing up. But that's one that is core to me that I think is really valuable.
Yeah, 100%. And then the other one that's really interesting that I really want to hear you talk about is setting healthy boundaries and saying no. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, dude. I don't know. I don't want to make any judgments or accusations, but we know the person that says yes to everything is not a very grounded person. Like they're just, they're the person that, you're with them and they're looking to the next thing. They're like, hey, oh yeah, we had lunch. Okay, I got to go to the next thing real quick. Oh, what were we talking about? Sorry, I gotta go. And they're just not there. They're not, I would say there's a lack of presence. And then there's, beyond that, there's also just like, because when you say no to something, you're saying, pointing to a bigger yes. Like for us to go long in conversation. We're saying yes to this person in front of us. We're being present, and we're saying no to finishing something at work or another meeting, and that's communicating to the person in front of you. You're valuable. You're important. You're significant. And if we're constantly living in the yes mode, then we're never really fully saying yes to the thing in front of us. And learning how to do that is really valuable.
You just spread thin, right?
Yeah.
You spread wide, but not deep.
Yeah. I mean, we all know those people, and some people I think maybe are wired that way, right? There's a mile wide and an inch deep. But truly be grounded where somebody, it's like you can't be all things to all people, because then you're nothing to nobody or to anybody. Well, I'm trying to think of the phrase, but yeah, it's like learning how to, all right, be 2 feet where you are. It's just, I'm trying to think of another thought. I don't know if I want to continue to chase that thought, but there's something powerful when you say no to something, because it truly means you're saying yes to the thing in front of you. Or saying yes to, you're saying yes to something bigger. I feel like I had an example in my head, but I lost it. But yeah, there's just something too of just like, this is a guy I work with, gave me great advice. He in a dual income, dual work marriages and raising kids world, a centered kid marriage culture is kind of the way he said it, is when you come home, he said, the best thing that I ever did for my marriage was to have couch time. It's like, meaning he came home and he didn't kiss his wife first. He kissed his kids first. Said, I love you. I'm excited to play with you. But me and your mom are going to go sit on the couch and have 30 minutes of undisrupted time. And they prioritize that. I think he said 3 times a week. And the kids saw us prioritizing the marriage. And so they said, everything good about this family starts with a good marriage, which is true. So when you say yes to my relationship with wife, I'm really saying yes to my kids, but I have to kind of say no to them at first. And it's like teaching them, like, hey, anyway. So anyway, that was a great example that I'm like, oh man. Because what ends up happening in most divorce families, right, is the kids take ownership over the marriage living or dying, right? I'm the reason why it didn't happen. And it's like, that's, y'all weren't the adults in the room. That's not on you.
Yeah.
No matter how much you tell them, they internalize that, right?
Yeah.
And so how do you then value, when you saying yes to something is putting something on the people that are saying yes to it.
Yeah.
Right? Anyway, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it just makes you more intentional about what you spend your time doing, because if you spend your time doing everything, then you will be probably more susceptible to being tossed around based off other people's opinions of you and things like that too, right? I mean, so it's kind of like a direct correlation to me, at least. Yeah. It's like, if I'm saying yes to everything, then man, I really don't know what's important. You know what I mean? I don't know what how my core values are driving how I spend my time or anything like that. I don't know. I mean, it just kind of,
your core value is getting, pleasing others.
Yeah, that's right.
So if I'm saying yes to every party, every event, everything, every trip, every this, then I have no backbone.
Yeah. And I would say too, it kind of feels to me like it does feel like this is probably more, at least in terms of saying no to things, it's probably more as you have kids, I think, in my mind. I mean, I think like about my life pre-kids, and it was like, when it came to like, I mean, there was a time I would meet with anybody, and that's probably because I was in sales and like trying to like create relationships and stuff, but it's different. I mean, even then though, you're driven with intentionality that like, I'll say yes to this because who knows? I mean, who knows the relationship or anything like that? So, so people get the difference. It's a little bit different. Letting truth and principle guide decisions instead of feelings or outcomes. That is that's something that you experience and learn from experience instead of,
Yeah.
right? I mean, that feels like,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we live in an outcome driven world for sure. And we want a certain result. We want our actions to mean that we're leading to a certain result. But at the end of the day, it's like, man, that is exhausting. And there has to be an internal driver to everything you do, or you'll get burnt out. You'll live and die off other people's validation or acceptance.
Yeah.
And
it's really hard too. It's hard too, especially as you deal with more confrontation as you get older.
Oh, yeah.
Because you'll, as you get into your 30s, you're probably, maybe in a little bit more of a leadership position or and so naturally with that, you're managing some people or something, in which naturally confrontation comes out, which naturally your emotions are inflamed kind of in real time. And so learning to keep those down and respond in a grounded person kind of way.
Yeah.
Is hard. But I mean, in your 20s, I mean, I guess like that's why I see so much value in this course. It's like, but start exercising that muscle a little bit, I mean, it may be, at least you'll know in those situations, okay, you'll kind of see it at least from a little bit of an outside perspective.
Right.
Okay, we've talked about this. Now this is how I should, this is how I've already defined how I'm going to react, that type thing, instead of just reacting based off of emotions. So
sometimes you need to give yourself a little pep talk before it, for sure.
Yeah.
If I know it's coming, if I know I got to say no to someone that I really want their approval from, and it's like, okay, I'm going to say no. And I know they're not going to react well, but hey, this is what I am basing this decision on.
Yeah.
And I don't have to explain myself. So that's another little practical thing. That in your 20s, you feel like you got to explain yourself. It's like, don't. Let it be. Let it be. This is who I am. If they don't like it, it's their problem. They control them. They control their own emotions. You control you. And learning how to do that in your 20s is super valuable. That is a very grounded person.
That is not to say that to me is almost the definition of a grounded person.
Yes. Yeah. Then that someone else's emotions do not dictate mine or dictate my decisions. It's like, I do not control them. I control me.
I'm grounded enough to where I don't have to over-explain.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's a hard one for me. I feel that when you say that.
Yeah.
Because I feel the need to, a lot of times, over-explain why something didn't go the way we expected it to at work.
Yeah.
Like right now, I've told Cartwright, we're doing this big software development project at our company right now that I'm kind of, I'm project manager on. And if a button's not working, my mind immediately goes to justify it, even if it's not true.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, really. Where, I think people get, hey, it's just not working. I don't know why it's not working, but we'll fix it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But instead, my mind goes to, well, it's because, I want to overcomplicate this, so you won't ask me more questions.
Versus just the simple truth. It's just
just the simple truth.
It's not working. We'll figure it out.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So I needed to hear that. Thank you, Cartwright.
$25.
Yeah.
Right. Where's my tip jar?
I don't have any cash. That's so funny, man. That's really good. Yeah. I mean, just learning. I think what I would have benefited a lot from this, I was just about to move on, but now I'm going to talk about this again.
Do it.
Just learning and defining what a grounded person is when you're in your 20s.
Yes. Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then what's also
grounded. You're not.
No, you're not. You're not.
You're not.
And so, but then also in learning that, like, you gain such an appreciation for the guys that are before you, like my dad. Like, I gained such appreciation for my dad. Like like you just talked about yours. I mean, I think our dads are very similar. Extremely grounded.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'll hear stories now. He's retired now, but like he'll tell me stories now about like things that were going on at work. Like, they had this massive acquisition by this company out of Houston, and he didn't know if he was going to have to move us to Houston and all this stuff. I had no clue. He would come home. He was the same guy. He was grounded.
Uh-huh.
And, I just don't know if I would.
Yeah.
If I didn't go through this exercise and like really learn what it looks like, I don't know that my reaction would be to be grounded when I'm at home and going through something like that. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah.
So you just gain such an appreciation in learning what it looks like and then seeing, oh, that's what my dad was.
Yeah.
And it's not because things were just steady all the time.
Right.
It's because he was grounded regardless of what was going on around him.
Yeah.
So.
And he knew, and there's something to a grounded person, speaking of core values, is like, hey, my kids, my family needs the grounded person right now. This is horrible what I'm going through, but I this is what they need, and so this is how I'm going to be. Yeah. And like that, yeah. It's funny. My dad actually told me a similar story of like on the verge of bankruptcy in 1996 in the family business, and he thought he was going to have to whip out a resume for the first time, and you're like. And then thankfully, it turned. Yep. But you're like, oh my, I had no idea. I was 11 years old. I had no idea.
No clue.
My dad, just showing up at home. Hey, how's everybody?
It's hug. It really is amazing.
Yeah. It's wild.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah, it's crazy. And I think part of too, similar story with my dad. He ended up being over a big department here in Birmingham, and we didn't have to go to Houston, all this stuff, which was great. But like, you wonder like, with your dad's story, my dad's story, if the outcome was so good because they were so grounded. You know what I mean? In a way, it could be. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're not focusing on outcomes, but it just feels like it could be. I don't know.
And so maybe that's the reason why I have a bad, if I want to maybe jump back a little bit to the word habits, because I think our dads, their generation was like, what kept them grounded was the consistency of certain things. Going to church on Sunday, meal at the same time, that kind of stuff. And not that wasn't connected to what we're talking about, but I think more I'm even trying to take men to that next level of like, all right, what is really, really grounds us? And I think our dad's faith is what grounded them for sure. But I always look back and I was like, man, what is it that people need consistency? Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And so like having kind of the marrying of have the consistent things in your life, the habits, the tenets in life of church and family and, food, right? All those things that really sustain you. But then how do you marry that with the active part of it of really reflecting and evaluating and trying to, know more about who you are and have that shine through in the midst of all that. So anyway, that's I just kind of want to make that point because I think sometimes I do look back and I'm like, was that generation maybe missing a little bit of the piece of evaluating motives and stuff like that. But anyway.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. So really good. You've got a few quotes here, which is, I love how you do that. C.S. Lewis, courage is not simply one of the virtues, but the form of every virtue at the testing point, which is from the Screw Tape Letters, which is such a cool book.
Yeah, so that's where we're trying to, this is, I think, what we're trying to do. We're trying to give young men permission to have the courage to say no, to find core values, to really discover this versus just hitting the cruise control button of like, hey, I just got to show up, do my thing, work hard, and it'll all work out. It's like, there's a little more to this.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, a little more to this. And have the courage to do that, to take that step, to step into some discomfort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's tough to do without help.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, it's tough to do without help.
I and this ministry exists.
So. Yeah, exactly. 100%. Yeah, it's gosh, I feel like I say this a lot, but don't try to figure this out on your own.
Yeah.
When you're 25, please.
No man's an island. I know they probably heard that. But
yeah, please don't do that. I tried it, and it just leads to, crazy anxiety and. Wondering, I don't know. You kind of become your own judge in a way, which is definitely not what you need. Jocko Willink. Yeah. We all know Jocko. Discipline equals freedom. The more disciplined you become, the more freedom you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Meaning the consistency in your life. You become this person. These are the things that I will do, hell or high water kind of thing. I will say no to all these other things so that I need this, because therefore it provides freedom for me to be me and not to be someone I think I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is so this is the last thing you have on this, at least in your notes. And, obviously people will come and they'll do the questionnaire to kind of point to what your core values are. What are some of the areas that are making you not be grounded, right? And defining it in a way that you can look at it, study it, and put some thoughts and practices in. But why it matters to people in their 20s now. And so I think this is so interesting because, I'm 34, so I'm not in my 20s anymore, but gosh, so I guess the last time I was in my 20s was 5 years ago. How much has changed in 5 years? I mean, it makes me feel like, what what our 20s were like are nothing like what 20-year-olds are going through now. Like, you think about inflation, you think about interest rates, you think about, just the post-COVID world, just the continuous, like, the temperature rising in almost every single area for men and especially Christian men if you're in your 20s. And that's what's so interesting about this next part is that you define, why it matters in your 20s, especially today.
Right.
And it always mattered in your 20s, but especially today.
Yes.
And it's because your decade is defined by constant change, job shifts, relationship drama, financial stress, and identity questions. Because of all that, a grounded person becomes the calm in the storm for himself and others. Himself and others could be your wife, could be your kids, instead of another wave of that constant changing.
Yeah.
This is the foundation of trustworthy leadership and lasting relationships.
Yep.
Man, to be a grounded person in your 20s today is figuring out what to do with a 6.5% interest rate when you're trying to buy your first home.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's or figuring out how to live or be on social media with the constant comparison to other people, and then the constant just garbage that's on there that could just pollute you.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess talk about that a little bit, like, especially today. I mean, it always has been, but it just feels like to me, especially today, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's something. Yeah. There's so many things that are telling you not good enough, do more. Yeah. Like, and because you're right. Like, what, making $100K a year, 5 years ago, 10 years ago is not the same today. I mean, literally, it's you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck in a lot of ways, especially if you've got kids. And it's just like, that constant, and the pressure, and you can internalize a lot of that messaging, and a lot of it deals with forces outside of our control, and that's what sucks about it. That's the part that really can kind of infuriate and make you ruminate, and also, if you don't know Jesus, really lead you to depression. But at the same time, like, okay, amidst of that, who am I? What I got to stick to my guns about who I am. Learning how to do that, whether I making enough or not, I got to continue just to be that person and not try to, and learn to evaluate when am I stepping outside of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I think one thing we can learn through, especially recent history, I really think in the context of celebrities, I'll give this little tidbit. I just finished the 4-episode documentary on Hulk Hogan because I was a big wrestling fan as a kid. And it's just, it feel like this story, and I love documentaries. I love sports documentaries, but I feel like I've been seeing this over and over, and there's just like in the midst of, the fast rise, and these guys probably rose in their 20s and 30s to success, fame, money, and then they start losing some of that in the fall. And it's like, and some of it missed the connection that they never became a grounded person. They never truly found who they were outside of the famous guy, the person who got accolades and money and fame. And then when they didn't, they had less of that or none of that. What followed is like, I think this one person is John Daly, another one. Like, I can't stand that documentary just because, you love the ethos of the guy, but at the same time, you're like, he's a wasted talent because he just never got over, like, being the fun, hit it long, hit it hard guy. Like, you're just like, you were married 3 times. I mean, I'm sure he may have a good relationship with his sons now, or maybe has one son. But there's just like when we have to get this part in our 20s, because there's just going to be things throughout life that are pulling us away, and most of the things that pull us away, the end result is destruction, and it's sad. It really is sad. I mean, like Hulk Hogan was divorced twice, lost relationships, thousands of back surgeries, just because he said I kept wrestling 10 years after I should have. Or really, and I think he said even longer. He said I should have quit in 1990. But he's like, he's basically, he's 71 when he died of a heart attack, which there's a lot of reasons why he died of a heart attack related to because he had to keep up this image, this character that he talks about. And, and then his back fell off, and he died at 71 when he was walking around like he was 95. Mm-hmm. And you're just like little stuff like that we just think, oh, we see the fame, we see the success, we see the money that comes with all of this, and we kind of think, oh, if I could just be that, just whatever that looks like. But we miss, all right, how do you become that grounded person so that if I ever do lose that, even if I did achieve that I'm still the same. Mm-hmm. That the people closest to me, the one that matter. Because I think at the end of the day, that's what you're going to be held accountable before God. All that stuff God is not impressed with. Mm-hmm. How do you find that thing that he has put in you that makes you valuable, one, to yourself, but those around you? Anyway, did I sum it up, Bo? Okay.
That was perfect. Yeah. So please, guys, if you want to dive into it deeper or reveal more about yourself in this, come do this thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's really important.
Yeah,
really, really important.
I'll say this because this is where I need probably your help, Bo. And I want to admit on here, I've learned the hard way, so probably in my 20s and 30s, that I'm not good at sales. And so I probably gave a plug in the last episode for the course and wasn't very good. I watched it back. I'm like, that was terrible. Anyway, learning how to talk about yourself is not easy. That's probably a weakness of mine for sure. But anyway, it's a thing that I've, hopefully if y'all listen to episodes, this is the driving force. And I think at the end of the day, everybody in their 20s wants legacy and impact in their life. They want to impact the people around them. They want a legacy that stands some test of time, in a sense. But unless you get grounded, unless you find the foundation that is in Christ, in who you are, like there's none of that's going to matter. And so it becomes your legacy, success, prosperity, wealth, all that becomes very subjective. It's a very subjective term. And so anyway, that's kind of my plug for the course. Please check out mentorforge.com. That's there's new stuff we're developing all the time on that. I'm really excited about, but a lot of these this survey's on there, so you can kind of click and go through it there. It shouldn't take you more than 5 to 10 minutes, I don't think.
Quick.
Yeah. Anyway, but there's 5 sections to it, right? You're going through all the 5 pillars. And if you're a man in Birmingham in your 20s and you want to jump into I'm going through a group of guys and testing it out in that way too, come show up to the Center for Executive Leadership on Tuesday mornings or Tuesday lunch. Show up. And come on in or email me and let me know you're coming.
And if you have a comment, if you disagree with something we said or something like that, leave a comment. For real, we had our first few, right?
Oh yeah,
and it was cool.
Yeah,
we had people disagree, and we had some some people that had points about what we were saying that they disagreed with that we got to read and kind of go back, not back and forth with, but kind of I mean, it's cool. Like we want all the smoke. Come on,
yeah,
we did. You know what I mean?
If you're leaving a comment, just hit the follow button as well.
Yeah, especially if it's a negative. No, for real. Thanks everybody else and stuff. But man, Cartwright's taken me through this for the last really heavy about 3 years ago and 3 to 4 years ago. And it's something that's constantly on my mind where I'm able to kind of challenge myself and kind of view myself a different way as a faithful son, figuring out what kind of leadership style I have, also figuring out what it means to be a grounded person, and then seeing the value in all these grounded people that are around me and seeing how hard that is, and constantly working those muscles in my spirit to, so that I can be the best, follower of Jesus that I can, husband that I can, and father that I can, because without, it's like you said, I think last week, if you're not developing and always learning and engaging with this kind of material, it's very easy today, especially in your 20s and 30s, to look up about a year after not doing it and be like, who is this person that I've become? And it's super easy. I know it's easy for me, so check it out.
Yeah. Thanks, Bo. Hey, thanks for listening. If you get a second, click that subscribe button. Give us a like. Yeah, we'll see you next time. Today's episode is brought to you by Bravenly Hydrate. It's hot out there, and you got to stay hydrated because regular water is just not going to cut it. And the main brand sports drinks got stuff you don't need to consume. So I recommend hitting the link in the bio and checking out Bravenly Hydrate. Lemon lime is my favorite flavor, but I recommend checking out more of Bravenly products. It's really great stuff for your health and well-being. So hit the link in the bio to find out more about Bravenly products.